No, I mean, there's times when you'll get to a place and you'll think, boy, I wish I was anywhere but here.
Martin has a unique style on the river. Almost more than any other boatman I've run with is he trusts the water. Sometimes he trusts it a little too much, but he just trusts it, and it generally takes him where he wants to go. And sometimes it makes me nervous, but he just knows. He just knows. He knows so much.
Well, there are the standard parts of a rapid, and that is the idealized situation is a smooth tongue leading into the beginning of the big waves, which then give you a tremendous ride up and over, and you never make any mistakes, you never get sideways, but you just enjoy this roller coaster. It's in a rapid where your skill really counts, because it's up to you to keep the boat upright and keep it going where you want it to go, not spill anyone overboard. Some people rowing can somewhat overpower the river. That is, a big, beefy guy can make a boat do things even though he is wrong in his decision as to how to do it. But when you get someone smaller, slight, or a slip of a girl, such as we have here in Mary, she has to have a lot more intelligence than a big, beefy boatman does, because she has to plan everything just right. She can't overcome her mistakes. Once she makes one, she's stuck with it, so she doesn't make them. I can make one and try to power my way out of it, make it sometimes, not make it sometimes, but as you can see, the stronger you are, the dumber you can be and still get down here all right.
So, following Martin's lead, we made it, dory after dory, rapid after rapid, Hance and Horn Creek, and Granite and Crystal. It didn't take long to develop an enormous appetite for the white water and a trust in each other and the river. For Martin Litton, this Grand Canyon paradise has been a battlefield.
The Grand Canyon held up before the world as perhaps the supreme example of nature's forces at work. And yet, we give this river no real credit. The world doesn't. It's forgotten that it created this place. And so we freely and without concern, we manipulate it, we use it up, we pollute it. We really insult the Grand Canyon by our misuse of the river.
The Colorado just might be the most overworked river in the world. Altogether, there are 43 dams and water diversion structures that control the plumbing of this river system. Our trip falls between two of the largest dams. Just upstream from the Grand Canyon is the Glen Canyon Dam. And at the far end of our trip, the canyon opens up on the headwaters of Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam. Right after World War II, our government went all out to develop the West. The Bureau of Reclamation proposed dams on the length of the Colorado River system. Martin Litton had been in love with the wilderness since he was a child. Returning from the war as a decorated glider pilot, he was already a dedicated conservationist. He earned his living as a photographer and a newspaper man, producing articles for the Los Angeles Times. Before environmental concerns had entered the public conscience, Martin was writing about endangered areas in the West. It was Martin who sounded the alarm when the Bureau of Reclamation planned to build dams within Dinosaur National Monument. The Sierra Club and other organizations took up the fight and surprised everyone by stopping the dams.
I mean, building things, that's what we do, spending money, you know.
Right.
And
conquering the West, conquering nature, and making the West habitable.
Subdue it and populate it.
Right.
And so these dams were automatically good things.
Yeah.
And when the dams in Dinosaur National Monument, which were going to be major affairs, were stopped by a bunch of little posy pickers and tree huggers, all of a sudden the world stood up and took notice, and we hardly took notice of it ourselves because we didn't even think we had a chance with Glen Canyon.
Through the late 50s and early 60s, Martin and others fought a losing battle to preserve Glen Canyon and keep the Colorado free. For many, the Glen Canyon Dam was seen as a terrible defeat. This was finished in 1963, was it?
63, they finished it, but it really didn't go on full line until 64.
Had you run the Colorado River before this was built?
Oh, yes, but only in the Grand Canyon, not Glen Canyon up here.
I see. Right upstream from the Grand, the Glen Canyon Dam holds back 180 miles of Lake Powell. Glen Canyon is gone forever, now buried underwater. Water and power are readily available. But Martin wonders about the price we've paid.
We don't worship, adore, or even cherish natural things as much as we think we do. If we did, we would never let something like this happen.
But it nearly happened again, later in the 1960s and further down the Colorado River, this time in the Grand Canyon itself. Here, in Marble Canyon, Reclamation had plans for a monumental water project.
Well, the reservoir here would have been 325 feet deep, and that means it would have backed the water all the way up to Glen Canyon Dam, 54 miles from here.
You know, Martin, I've talked to a number of people who said that you and David Brower were really pretty much single-handedly responsible for galvanizing public opinion against this.
Well, I think that's an exaggeration, this single-handedly.
That's the other thing people have told me, too, that you'd never take credit for it, but...
Well, credit isn't due. That kind of credit. I did what I thought I could, but it was a kind of thing we could rally the public against, because Grand Canyon was a magic word. We've lost so many other places, but the Grand Canyon remains something that people will rally around.
Once you've been here, you begin to understand what Martin's been fighting for. There's something about the wilderness that puts the need for progress in perspective. But back in the 50s and 60s, there weren't many who questioned the best intentions of the Bureau of Reclamation.
Well, one of the compromises, that we were faced with was whether to have one dam in the Grand Canyon or two. Two dams were proposed and on the drawing boards and ready to be built. And it was assumed they would be built in this canyon. And the politicians were shocked that a little upstart organization would come up and say, no, we don't want the dams. Then they came along and said, well, how about one of the dams? And we were sharp enough at that time to say no, none, and we ended up with none.
He said there's only one Grand Canyon, and to do that in for economic gain or for whatever the reasons, we really need to is madness, is what Martin said.
Yeah, the other thing that he was saying to me was that there's a real tendency for people who are in the environmental movement to sort of anticipate what the compromise is going to be and try to work for that compromise. And his point is, if you're on the side of protecting something like the Grand Canyon, that you're completely on that side. You don't try to anticipate what the compromise will be.
Well, people say that we don't want to be unreasonable in our demands, and yet we feel certain things. We hear about science being the thing that we should go by. Science should be the arbiter, and yet what really makes the world go round is emotion, what people care about. And when you compromise with what you believe in willingly, you've lost, because you've given up something of what you really believe.
Martin says, don't be too quick to give away the wilderness. It'll never come back.